Hello, good morning. This is Mitch over at IndySoft. I hope you're doing well. It is Tip Tuesday, and this week I wanted to make you a quick video showing you how you can exchange certificates and equipment information from one IndySoft database to another. This is truly used for when commercial calibration labs do service for a manufacturer who also has our application. There's actually a way in the system where you can directly create an export file of the certificates, the schedules, and the equipment that was calibrated or serviced, and then you can pass that file over to your manufacturer or your customer. They can then directly import it, saves them time from having to scan the certificate, update the schedule, or just manually run a calibration event. We'll actually take that from one system, export that, and push that directly over with this particular utility. So the first thing that I have previously set up in my system is I've got a company here, which is 1000-1, which is my company called Tip Tuesday Inc. I point this out because in my system, my short company name is the customer number. Okay, so just keep that in mind for just a moment. What I've also previously created is asset MJ-1, and I'm just going to proceed through and execute my calibration event. So in here, I'm just going to proceed through. I truly just want to get the certificate, and I'll bypass any of my test points here. But when I mark this as complete, this particular tool is now going to have certificate 0-2238. Okay, so let's assume we had 20, 30, 40, 100 certificates, an entire work order or set of work orders, and we want to export those and then get those into a file so our customer can then import them in. So in the version of the software, the commercial lab version, what the commercial lab would do is they would go to the legacy export import tools. And the term legacy there is just because this utility has actually been in the software quite a while, and I just wanted to make this video and show you guys how to use it. But the legacy terminology doesn't necessarily mean it's going anywhere. It's just it's been around for a while. So what we're going to do in this database, this is the commercial lab, we're going to create an export file, and we're going to export to an IndySoft customer. Okay, so you're going to notice here, I'm going to create an export to IndySoft customer. There is the opposite direction, so your manufacturer could actually create an export of their equipment list and send that over to the lab as well. But I'm going to choose export to IndySoft customer. When we execute this, we're going to come up with an equipment finder, and we're going to identify which equipment that it is we want to create the export of. In my case, I only have that one asset, so I can go in there and select that. But most likely what you'll do is you'll build a quick query that identifies what was calibrated either via the work order number, or I may in my case just use the last calibration date was today, or maybe between a certain date range. But I'm going to hit select and add that one particular asset. Okay, so I'm going to hit add. Then what it's going to ask is which one of my vendors is actually creating this export file. I'm just going to say one item calibrated and just one instrument, but you could also put in any additional notes if necessary. Now, when the commercial lab is doing the export, there are a few options where you could actually have the system immediately generate a particular event type for you. That would be if you wanted the software to auto-create like a shipping or a cal-out event if necessary. Okay, so I'm going to hit next, and I have my system set up where it just takes that file and it puts it directly on my desktop. But you can navigate out and put that in a particular folder or destination if desired, and you can even jump directly into an email. So I'm going to hit next, and it was only one instrument, so that the export was sort of lightning fast. But what we're going to see is on my desktop, here's that particular file. There's that X2C file that we were looking at. So now let's assume that this file, we put it on a thumb drive or we email it to our customer, and now they need to get that into their database. Okay. So now I've got this version of the software open, which is typically what our manufacturing customers have. And what I want to point out here is in this database, I've named the company Tip Tuesday Company. In the commercial CalLab database, I named the company 1000-1. I'm just pointing that out because I want you to see that there is a mapping process that you get to go through. Now inside of here, instrument MJ1 also does not exist just yet, okay? So essentially what the manufacturer is going to do when they receive this file, they're going to use the same utility, but they're going to choose the option to import from a lab. So they're going to use the import options. So when we choose that import from a lab, It's going to ask me where do I want to grab that file from. I conveniently just already have it on my desktop. Now when you're doing imports, you do have functions and options as well. Inside of here, we have a few options where the importing lab can also perform an event. That's what these options down here are for. So essentially, let's say this one asset, I want to immediately go ahead and execute a CalIn event upon completion of the import. I could set that up and enable that. We also have the ability, when you're importing equipment, you can choose to include test point data and or equipment declarations. So this is things like manufacturer model description. This is important because some of our labs will always want to leave this set to never, because let's say that we have a manufacturer who refers to something as a DMM, but then the commercial Cal lab calls it a digital multimeter. If we have to choose which one can win. So if we leave this set to always, whatever comes in that import file will overwrite what you have set up. Never will never do that, of course. And then only where none exist would be if it's a null value, we'll go ahead and bring that in. So I like to leave mine set up as only where none currently exist. So once I have this part set up, the system will retain whatever you set that up as, so you don't have to do this each individual import. So the final step is we're just going to hit next. And now here, if you recall from the commercial CalLab database, the company name was 1000-1. Because commercial Cal labs often go by customer numbers. However, in the manufacturing database, we get to identify what we call ourselves, which was just my Tip Tuesday company. So there is a little mapping that you have to do just to make sure we're not importing in duplicate records. So what I'm going to do is simply hit OK. That's going to then create that import, or that's not going to create it, but that is going to perform the import. So now we're going to give you a quick grid that gives you a list of any instruments that were brought in, or in my case, it was just the one asset that was passed. You can print the list. You can also send it to Equipment Finder and or Navigator should you need to do so. Okay. So in this case, that one particular asset was imported in. I'm going to hit exit. Then I want to go navigate to that. So now let's bring up instrument MJ-1, which previously did not exist. But now here's the asset. Here's all my equipment declarations. I elected to bring in the test points as well. And if we look at the history grid, you're going to see it's a calibration event was created, but for the status, you're normally used to seeing complete or incomplete. But in this situation, it says cert only, and there's my certificate along with my updated schedule. So those are the things that get imported in with this utility. Now, if I go back and I look at this calibration, you're going to notice inside of here, I don't have the ability to make any changes. Also, certain data is not brought in because the goal of this is we're just trying to get the certificate from the commercial lab system into yours and then also get your schedule updated so you can keep track of your assets. But I hope that's a good quick video on how to utilize this tool. I think what I will bring up is this utility is forward and backwards compatible. So if we have a lab running version 12, a manufacturer running version 10, it will still work. It's always advised to be on the same versions, of course, and up to date if possible, but this is a forward and backwards compatible utility. The last thing that I do want to mention is if you are on our latest revisions of the application, we do have a utility where we can do this automatically over the cloud. It requires both the commercial lab and the manufacturer to do a little bit of setup on their side, but we'll talk about that in a future video as well, but we can do what we call a cloud-based sync as well. But I hope you're having a great week. I hope you have a great day, and I hope this video will help you out some. Thank you.